Excited to have everyone for our next kind of continuing Lunch and Learn series with Happy Wellness Group. I am Peter Darrow, managing partner of Happy Wellness. We are an investment group and advisory focused on the wellness space broadly, whether that's food, beverage, CPG, mental health, health tech, longevity, lots of different categories. We run the venture arm of Craft Capital, which is an investment bank here in New York, and Craft has brought hundreds of companies public, conducted hundreds of M&A transactions. We manage our own syndicate composed of angels, VCs, family offices that we work with. Ultimately, our goal here at Happy Wellness is to leverage our domain expertise and ecosystem to drive companies toward a successful exit. That is our goal. Do good in the world and help people while doing it. So really excited to have this presentation on AI, which is a very obviously exciting area. And our partner Sarah Hearing is going to be presenting. I'm gonna allow Sarah to take the floor in the moment and introduce herself. I'm just for housekeeping, we'll probably ask to refrain from questions until the end. So we'll have Sarah just kind of go through her presentation and materials, and then very much kind of popcorn style. We will kind of open it up for some fun Q&A at the end and conversation. So with that, Sarah, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, guys, so great to see you here. I have a couple of screens, so I don't see the chat, but Ian's gonna help out moderating this. First, I just want to start by introducing myself and kind of framing the conversation. So first of all, let me be really clear. This is not a presentation about AI tools. This is about operating leverage and how AI becomes one of the most important drivers of it. What we're seeing right now is not gradual adoption, it's separation. So some companies are compounding advantage through better systems, better decisions, and better learning. Others are still experimenting. That gap is widening. So I come here from the perspective of an operator, being very, very practical in my approach. I have worked on numerous companies from the ground up. And so I just want to share with you what I'm seeing on the ground and why this is important. Luke, do you want to give a little sidebar on? So what I really want to do is have a better understanding of
I think
who
we
is in
just
the room.
launched the poll, actually, Sarah. We just launched the poll as well. If we have a couple questions that people could answer first, and then we'll give people 1 minute just to answer the poll, and then we'll continue. Sorry about that. This will help kind of frame our conversation. Okay, great. While they're completing that, Sarah, please continue.
Okay, so my background is really operator first. I've been a founder, I've been a COO, I've built and scaled companies through systems, data, and discipline execution. So again, the lens here is practical, and what you will get today is four things. One, having an understanding of the market shift that truly matters. Two, where AI actually creates leverage. Three, three high-packed use cases, and four, how to evaluate this. So the goal is really simple, really having an understanding of clarity over noise. As investors, we really want to be able to understand how AI is really driving our understanding of companies and investment, and really where the meat is in all of that, where the value lies, and how that actually creates multipliers. From a founder perspective, we are creating businesses differently today than we ever have before. And a lot of people are kind of flirting with AI. They're using some tools, they're experimenting, but they are not implementing the way that they should be. So what I want to really express is the timing. Snowflake came out with a beautiful report of 2026 predictions of AI. I urge you to take a look at that from a founder perspective and an investor perspective. There is loads of information there, and what is really came out of that is the numbers really matter. So AI is really driving operational leverage, and that's no longer theoretical. It's measurable, it's deployable, and it's compoundable. And really, the real meat of all of that is the compounding element of AI. It's not a linear process, it's almost like electricity. So we are no longer in the early adoption phase. This is really where we have market separation. So the gap between companies deploying AI intelligently and those that are not is widening quarter over quarter. And this really is taking place because AI is accelerating more than it ever has. If you've been in the room of anything happening in the last couple of weeks, that is why I am personally incredibly excited. Claude, you've probably seen the shift of what everybody is doing, moving off of ChatGPT and into Claude. And why? Because it is so much better. ChatGPT has been kind of the platform where I've invested a lot of time in and built a whole tech stack around consolidating all my COO knowledge into to create a really systematized process for founders to kind of get where they are to where they want to be. But it's almost like the bad boyfriend you don't want to break up with because it feels safe. Once you jump into Claude and have a better understanding of what you can do with co-work and what you can do just in the Claude environment, it really breaks down the barriers that anybody can jump in the pool. So again, the gap between companies deploying is really, really widening right now, and the market has already moved. The real question is whether your operating model has or not. So what we're seeing right now and what came out of the Snowflake report is where most companies are. 50% of companies are still experimenting with AI. They're running pilots, they're testing tools, they're exploring prompts, and you might be one of those people that are doing that. But experimentation without integration is just noise. It's time waste for you, and it has no real benefit to your bottom line. The last couple of years have been really interesting. Enterprise has been doubling down on investing in AI. So in 2024, it was the year of creativity and experimentation. We really learned that we can do a lot from a marketing perspective. We can amplify what's been working, and people have been doing that for the last couple of years. 2025 has really been where enterprise has put money into pilot programs and really has looked at it from an ROI perspective and a business value perspective. And what has come out of that is that they are moving things from pilot and into actual builds that really make a difference on their bottom line. Founders also have, you know, just an incredible opportunity to be able to level the playing field with other people in their space with AI, and we can start to get into how that actually is working. But the gap is truly implementation, and I can't stress that enough. I have a ton of clients in the last year that have gone through an assessment plans. They have an understanding of what it might be able to do for them, where their biggest opportunities lie, but most people are still kind of kicking the tires and not jumping into actual implementation. So they're running the pilots, they're testing the tools, they're exploring the prompts, but they're not really like diving in the deep end. And awareness right now is a commodity. Execution is where advantage lives. So only a small percentage of companies have really truly embedded AI into their core workflows. Intros in how decisions are made and how revenue is generated is the true gap, and that is where the opportunity lies. So the next two slides are really my favorite slides. This is really the meat. So the most common mistakes is treating AI like something you open on demand. it's a chatbot, it's a writing assistant. That framing is limiting value. AI becomes powerful when it's embedded into your existing workflows. So before decisions are made, during execution, and after analysis. And this is the real difference between using AI occasionally and building a system that compounds. And this is the real, true leverage point. So everything that you are currently doing in your business can be replicated in an AI perspective. So people are still trying to wrap their mind around how I actually do this. Take a look at the things that you are doing all the time. Write down all of the process-driven things that you're doing, and you can start to just automate all of those things. That is like the first thing that you should be doing, and what we help clients to fundamentally get to. This next slide is really, if you strip away the noise, AI delivers three capabilities: pattern recognition, decision support, and workflow execution. And every high value application is a variation of these three things. This is how operating leverage is being created. So not by adding features, not by adding tools, but by embedding intelligence into how business actually runs. And once you see this, it becomes obvious where to apply it and where not to apply it. So most companies right now are over investing in execution. And that might sound contradictory to what I have just said, but those that are able to move fast and ship more are the real advantages. The real advantages also they live upstream. So in what you see and how you interpret and how quickly that you can decide. AI, the big aha with AI is being able to give founders the decisions quicker and remove the latency of the execution portion. So if those things are weak, execution just accelerates the wrong outcomes. AI amplifies all three of these. So the highest leverage point is improving perception and judgment, and better decisions upstream create exponential better outcomes downstream. Okay, so there has been thousands and thousands of tools that have been released in the last 6 months, and most people are digesting an enormous amount of content. They're seeing people on Instagram, they're seeing people on LinkedIn that are doing this cool workflow that they're getting into the rabbit hole of. And at the end of the day, it never really fits into their genuine business or their workflow process. And so that is where we're seeing people kind of swim. Not every AI application deserves attention. High impact use cases fall into exactly three buckets: time, risk, and opportunity. Time removes the low leverage work, risk detects the problems early, and opportunities surface inside what others miss. So if the thing doesn't fit into one of these, it's probably noise. And what I see with most founders is they spin their wheels on a ton of noise and they don't sink their teeth into the real meat of what AI actually can do for them and how it can turn their business. This is kind of a bizarre slide because everybody feels two things. One, it's happening so quickly, I don't know where to actually start. And two, nobody is really implementing the thing correctly. So why is Snowflake basically saying that the moat is closing now? This is really where it becomes strategic. The moat is not the model. It is the system that learns. So data compounds, feedback loops accelerate the advantage, and late movers pay exponentially more. So if you're not getting into the AI game now and your competitors are, this is really the moment of time to jump into the pool. In 6 months, in 12 months, with the acceleration of AI, you will not have the market advantage that your competitors do with all the learnings that AI can do in the background for you. So this is really where valuation multipliers will become increasing. And this is where it's going to come from. This is also incredibly exciting. Joe is on the call here, and I have been mildly obsessed with his product. Joe, sorry to call you out on this call. I think you know that.
Yeah.
What is most interesting to me about Joe is when he told me he's built his company on the back of AI. This is really, truly where the advantage happens. And so I've been thinking about Joe and this fabulous product that I've been in love with. And I've been thinking, how do we create a moat that makes sense for investors? And so this was kind of my aha moment in the understanding of where businesses like Joe's are gonna eat up market share and they're gonna win in this game. And the most powerful systems are the ones that embedded AI into the rhythms of the business. It isn't a plug and play. It's based on a first mover advantage and AI first approach. So every interaction becomes intelligence. Repurchases refine conversion. Reviews sharpen positioning. Support tickets improve systems. So all of this data combining, one person can't do it alone. That's why the system has to be put into place to be the underlying current of how the business runs. And if companies understand that, like Joe understands that, and your background is brilliant, he can run his business with much fewer headcount and have much more clarity on the market, but more importantly, be able to get out in front of the issues that will inevitably take place. So I look at customer support as like this heartbeat of the company. And most customer support teams, they are playing whack-a-mole and they have the KPIs of, customer stick rates and retention and, beautiful things like that, which are grand. But the real benefit is being able to loop those mechanisms into every other function of the business. So if there's a product customer support ticket that came in, it needs to be directed to the product team. Then when the product team gets that information, what does the product team do with it? So there needs to be this beautiful feedback loop that is engaged in all aspects of the business. And that's truly where the multiplier happens. And this is truly where business can run seamlessly. So it's no longer about the being the biggest. It's no longer about being the best funded. It's the one that learns the fastest, which is so exciting for founders. Founders have not been in this position for decades. From an investor perspective, the old question is, can they execute? Can a founder actually execute? In the previous cycle, this is the question that investors were asking. The whole adage of, do you bet on the horse or the jockey? Most investors would say, I bet on the jockey, which is the right thing to say. However, we need to be deepening the questions and start to ask new ones. And those execution capacity is now abundant. AI has completely destroyed the question of, can you execute? Because if implemented, which in a year, 2 years from now, everybody will be putting AI into their businesses. The ability to build is no longer the constraint. Execution is now table stakes. The alpha in the room is vision. It's being able to compound the learnings that you get and be able to distribute it through the rest of your company. So what data is forming? What learning systems are improving? What will the moat look like in 24 months? So vision is truly where the advantage lives. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through, I've been talking too much. I'm going to quickly go through these use cases and I'll gladly distribute this deck afterwards. What I'd like to do is just kind of roll through this and then we can get into more of a substantive conversation. Um,
Yeah, we'll probably do another 5 minutes here, Sarah, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Sounds good. So, the SEO risks, the invisible revenue loss. This is a classic example of invisible loss. So traffic doesn't drop all at once, it declines slowly. And most founders only notice this when it becomes a revenue problem. And by then, the recovery is expensive. The signals were there, but they weren't visible in time. And most teams don't have a data problem, they have a decision latency problem. Um, SEO is one of the things that, in the workflow can be easily diagnosed, detected, diagnosed, and acted on. And we can talk a little bit about the how of all of these things, but more importantly, the goal is not more data. It's better decisions faster. What is the risk? Why is it happening? What to do next? And this removes the burden of analysis and accelerates execution. The other use case is fix the problem before you hire people. You will have much, much, much happier people. Take a look at your processes and process map them out and actually automate and put AI into place before you hire that person. The CMO that you're going to hire, she doesn't know anything about AI. She has not been trained in that. Hire somebody to actually implement that. So when she jumps in the pool, then she can actually be a really strong contributor of the team. Automate repetitious executions. So the model is simple. AFI classifies, it develops a rule and it routes that information, and then humans can handle exceptions. So this eliminates manual triage. It removes coordination overhead. It automates reporting. What you get is capacity without increasing headcount. It is the operational lever. And for guys like Joe, this is why I'm excited about his company in particular, because again, the vision is the alpha in the room. We'll roll through the white space side of things. There's a lot that we can do from just traditional research and things that are far more actionable with AI. And again, going back to what AI can do, you know, again, the output is really simple. Customers hate this. No one owns this, and you can win here. So, a lot of clients that I know are scraping Reddit reviews and all sorts of things from the internet to have a better understanding of where the pain points are. And they're basically developing marketing messages based off of that, and then creating, 500 hooks that they're testing, all at once. And this is the muscle and meat behind AI that we have never had before. So the strategic lens. Founders and investors are in such a beautiful place right now. The wrong question is whether they're using AI or not. That doesn't matter. Tool access is a commodity. Everybody has access to the same tools. The right question is what they are becoming, what they are compounding, what feedback loop is improving, and what moat is forming. And why founders win in this cycle. So again, founders have a structural advantage. They have no legacy systems. They have no technical debt. They can go faster in their iteration cycles. And right now, speed beats scale. The window is opening, but it is narrowing. So action. Okay, what can you do? You've heard all of this, you've gun to your head, you need to do something today. What are you going to do? So the biggest failure mode is over planning. Everybody wants to know exactly where it's going to be, but AI is sort of like holding electricity. It isn't a linear pathway. It really is the understanding of moving something from a system to system, and then also having the compounding data be able to make those decisions and act on those decisions. So it really is kind of the underlying layer should be in your company. So trying to design the perfect strategy is the wrong thinking. Companies that are winning are jumping in the pool. So here's my recommendation to you. Identify one workflow, define the input and the output, build the logic, and launch and iterate. So start really small, move really fast, and compound. And once you have the understanding of how you get from A to Z in one small workflow, you can start to do that with the rest of your business and the rest of the things that are, eating up your day. So we really try to talk to clients and say, one, what is the thing that you are doing so much of that you wish you could be doing more of? Two, what are the things that are absolutely not working that you need to rethink? And three, what are the things that you wish you were doing more of? And so we start from that perspective and really roadmap, what is going to have the highest impact with the highest ROI and start there. So one working system changes operational tasks. Okay, so the pattern repeats. Manual systems become structural systems. Coordination becomes automated, and the results are consistent. Automation, time saving, scalability. So the same tools, different architecture. So in closing, your next move. If you're thinking about where this applies in your business, here's a simple way to move forward. You are welcome as an accommodation to Happy Wellness and being a service to this community. Send me one simple workflow, and I'm more than happy to jump in the deep end with you and help to just clarify how you actually implement it. And once you do one, I'm sure you can do many. So that is my offer to this beautiful community. And where this gets real, I'm happy to answer any questions, but what I really want is to have a discussion about, where does this create leverage for you? Where do things slow down or become manual? And maybe we can just go around the room and talk a little bit about just where you are in your mindset with AI. Would love to hear if this is helpful at all and if this was illuminating, but more importantly, just take the temperature of the room and see where everybody is at. Luke, maybe you can just share a little bit of the poll results so we can have a substantive conversation.
Yeah, happily. So from the first question, what describes your role? 70%, which is 7 of the 10 folks who filled this out, are founders. And then even split of 1 investor, startup team member, and then advisor. How AI is being used currently, experimenting with tools, being integrated into multiple business functions, and then core product. Each have 3.
Cool.
And then final question, what is the biggest challenge? And then the results were 3, 3, and 2 for knowing where AI actually creates ROI, implementing tools, and then security, governance, and compliance concerns.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's really 4 stages of AI, and we really see most people sit in like 1 and 2. Most people think that they are in 3, and that's honestly where the gap and the opportunity is. But yeah, would love to hear if anybody has any questions first, and we can start there.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That's wonderful. I feel like I could listen to this for, there's like so much to dive into here. I feel like this is like a 5-hour, deep dive, like half-day summits that we just got downloaded. But it's all super, yeah, this is wonderful. And that's also very generous of you to offer. Be careful what you wish for. You might be inundated with requests, but that's a good problem to have. Yeah, we want to open it up for questions, comments. This is very much meant to be conversational. You can also drop questions in the chat as well. But feel free, anyone can unmute themselves and ask Sarah a question. We'll start with Sarah since she has her hand up here. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, Sarah. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, I am outside, so I hope you can hear me. I
it.
really appreciate all of this, and I think for me, this all feels very, and maybe for everyone on this call, this feels very aspirational. I think where I am as a founder is still very much in the building blocks, which I'm sure you would tell me is exactly the right time to think about some of this automation. But I think as a founder who's actually building an AI product, it is also new to me that I actually don't know how to automate anything at this point, right? It's also trial and error. That I can certainly make notes like, oh, that would be nice to automate in the future, but it's so manual right now. And I worry that despite building an AI product, I am losing advantage on automation as a one-person founder, as a one-person business.
It is wildly hard to focus on the operational pieces of the company from the perspective of automation. And that is also why it's really important. So let me just like try to demystify the way in which to go about it, because a lot of people just can't wrap their head around, okay, what's step one, what's step two, what's step three? And I've built this beautiful tech stack out to really be kind of a co-pilot in the room. And, one is really identifying those areas by which you want to automate. So really just think of like the top 3 things that you do all the time that is just repetitious, and start there. Start with the low hanging fruit, and also what is going to give you, what is also not only repetitious, just the things you don't want to do. And really look at that from a process perspective. And this is where like Claude can really help you. And I've developed like some prompts that help founders wrap their head around, okay, how do I actually just go about this? And the most time consuming and the laborious thing in the process is process mapping, is really just saying, what are all the little things in that process that I do? And that's where people get hung up, because we, in our little human brains, we assume so many little tiny actions that we take that we lose sight of like how to actually do it. So I personally use something called Scribe, and Scribe is a software. If you're not familiar with it, it basically just records your every action. So just stick Scribe on and do that action that you do every single day. Then take the Scribe notes and put this prompt in, and it will literally just tell you every single action that you took. So that's like step 1, is like process map it for yourself. And then step 2 is really, what are the systems that are in place that are doing those actions? And so you're then taking, your help desk, you're taking your Shopify, and you're taking your Airtable, and if it's a customer service issue or something like that. And you can really kind of start to mind map this with the co-pilot of Claude if you set it up correctly. And so it will literally walk you through those steps. And once you do it once and you get it right, and now here's where it's kind of interesting too. I would really look at Cowork, at Claude Cowork. If you're not ready to jump into the terminal pool with Claude Code, like Claude Cowork is your friend. And I don't have any idea why ChatGPT hasn't created this. You can kind of like say it's like a codex, but it's not. Cowork is your beautiful friend that is going to hold your hand through this process and actually get it done for you. If you get under the hood of Make or N8N, that is also getting a little clunky and complicated for a lot of people. So Claude Cowork is your best bet on where to start. And then we have something called value mapping. So just because you can automate everything, like, should you really automate it, right? So we put it through the lens of a value mapping perspective and actually put the ROI against that. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at this task and you're saying, I do this every single day, 4 times a day, am I willing to actually invest the time and often the money? Because what I'm seeing, Sarah, is your problem is exactly why I'm in business. It's because like nobody really wants to do that hard implementation work and it takes away from your day to day. But there are so many implementers out there that do this strictly for, for work. And I work with a lot of implementers. So for clarity, I'm not a technical founder. I work with implementers. I do the architecting of that process mapping, and then I hand it off to an implementer that will get it done. Is that helpful?
Super helpful. And I think what I was getting at maybe was that so much of my implementing right now is still tied to learning. So I wonder how much of that can be automated or how much of that we should be comfortable automating, right? Like I am A, B to Z message testing and ads, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
Do I trust an automation process to just do that for me? And should we?
I totally think that you should. I absolutely think that you should.
You mind?
And it isn't concrete, right? It, like I said, it's like holding electricity. You really have to just change your mindset on like you're not building a foundation that is brick by brick. It's ever evolving. It's moving. That's why the moat of learning is like so important, and that is the advantage. So try to put that hat on when you ask yourself that question, and it's going to amplify the answers.
Mind if I jump in with a real world example, Sarah?
Yes, Joe.
So I think one thing that helps me figure out what to kind of automate or build in using AI is figuring out whether or not I'm taking external stimulus and putting it into AI and trying to get a result or build upon an idea, or whether I'm working inside out. And so one thing that I thought about the other day is really just kind of evaluating ideas that are in my head. So I own a cleaning product, but I'm only here because I turned it into a wellness ritual product. And I actually used AI to come to that positioning, but that's kind of besides the point. But what I was talking about in this instance is how do I get how do I make more outreach to people that can impact my brand, whether it be investment types, whether it be B2B sources like hospitality groups, things like that. And so I thought to myself, well, I have a pretty decent sized LinkedIn audience, like 8,000 followers, connections, things like that. But how do I tap into it in a meaningful way? So what I did was I just use AI to teach myself how to scrape the LinkedIn data that I have, basically have them send me an email with a CSV file in it. And then I took that CSV file, I put it back into AI, and I analyzed my entire network. And then I created slices of that data. So I learned who are people that work in hospitality groups, who are people that work in restaurant groups, who are investors. And then what I told it was I gave it a time-based automation. And so this automation is self-contained within the AI. And all it does is I basically told it, every time I log in and start a new thread and you notice that it's a different day, I want you to prompt me with one person across each of these categories that I can reach out to via email. So now I don't have to look at my LinkedIn as this big, nebulous, arduous, massive, black hole. I can actually use it to direct my actions every day to help me maybe get seen more from a more tactical approach. So that's one way I'm using it.
And Joe, how does that make you feel?
I mean, it makes me feel great because things that I might have needed to use an agency for 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, I don't have to pay retainer fees for any of that type of work. I have analysts at my fingertips inside of these, kind of working stations inside of my AI. It feels good from that perspective. Obviously, that there's just more, stuff at my fingertips to be able to kind of help me run my business more smoothly as a founder.
Yeah, and I think that is the point. There's a really interesting woman named Ariana, and I'll butcher her last name, but DeBozesan. But she talks about change, and that change is really an inevitable thing. And if there's any takeaway from this conversation, is that embracing the change of AI is really going to be to your benefit. And I know what it's like to sit in the founder role, and I know the overwhelm that feels every single day, that you're never really making that headway that you want to make. And AI is the game changer. You just don't know how to use it yet. So that's why I really, like a year and a half ago, I really thought to myself, I've exited companies, I've built companies from the ground up, but how can I be of the biggest service to my founder community? And really learning AI for me was that thing. And really giving people the toolkits and the aha moments of removing that pressure that you have on a daily basis and try and chip away with it like step by step. And even the thing that Joe just explained, like that is a beautiful way to go about it, where you don't have this absolute overwhelm of the LinkedIn, database and what am I going to do with it? It starts to become part of your process and part of the company.
Also, a game changer too is education. It's completely been commoditized using AI. So, like a good example of that is, I mean, I've grown up in advertising agencies and marketing companies, so I kind of understand how these things work. But you can take, very famous models like Porter's Five Forces or MECE frameworks and stuff like that, things that McKinsey developed. You can put it into Claude and run it against your brand, and you can do what would have been 3 months and $1 million worth of research in about 10 minutes. And those things, you definitely have to kind of have a discerning eye, because sometimes AI can get a little bit out of control and can, I wouldn't say lie, but it can get very wild in its responses. So you have to kind of rein it in sometimes, but it's a good place to start.
I mean, you literally can't make this up. I just got a prospecting kind of spam email. This is one way to use it, although probably not the best way. This says, RE, Claude runs my entire LinkedIn outreach. Literally just got this email on my phone.
Was it Joe?
It wasn't me.
No,
I don't
it
have
was
it
Joe
run my
Hahn.
outreach. I just use it as research. I don't actually do the automated outreach. I do the
Yeah, I mean, that's one use of it, more controversially, but
Well,
literally can't make that up.
after this call, I have like 10 McKinsey prompts that I personally love to use, and I'll distribute them to everybody here if anybody's interested, because I think it is absolutely fascinating what you can kind of discover from it. Also, Claude has a awesome platform for learning. There's like 13 separate courses that I would encourage you to take to jump in the pool. A lot of people are jumping from ChatGPT. We won't talk about politics, but it's sort of like the sycophant, just giving you at a girl information, where I feel like Claude is kind of like way more discerning in the feedback. We can talk about that in another time.
Well, Sarah,
I
there's probably,
subscribe to it,
about 20 things at Happy Wellness that you and I that we could implement that we probably need to talk about as well. So that I'm now discovering here. What other questions do we have for Sarah? We have about 10 minutes left here.
I guess I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
So my biggest challenge is the human in the loop, which screws everything up. Obviously, it's usually me and my partners. But we started a new wellness company, geez, just a couple months ago, and we're working on these spreadsheets, and we have like dozens of SKUs and price tiers for, resellers, distributors. Claude Code launches about 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, as we're trying to distribute all this information to our potential sales reps and stuff. And we used Claude Code to basically, instead of building a website, we built an app using Claude Code. And it literally, did in a week what would have taken us 6 months with our developers and et cetera to put together. Now we're receiving orders. Everyone's able to use it. It's very fluid. We have to make a lot of corrections because stupid robots don't understand how calendars work correctly all the time. And there's constant bug fixing and whatnot. So it's not flawless, but I'm pretty well versed in AI. I mean, I'm not the foremost expert, but I've been using it for a long time and for a lot of different applications. And it's always comes to the human in the loop where, you get to fulfillment. Now someone has to take the products, put them in a box, bring them to FedEx and do all those things. And then once they're at FedEx, we're tying in our API to get the, notifications to the customer who ordered it and stuff like that for delivery and all that. But that's always like the hang up. Any ideas, thoughts about that? And also I do have questions about SEO, because it seems like the traditional SEO is what it is. You do certain tricks to get Google to recognize you and give you a high ranking. How does that work with these large language models, like with Claude or ChatGPT or whichever one, Gemini. I've used them all, I think. DeepSeek, remotely, decentralized. I'm not giving them all my info, but I've used a lot of these models on my own server, as well as the public servers. But anyway, my long story short, how do you get sort of, I guess, I don't know what you'd even call it. Is it a new category? How do you get SEO ranking from a chatbot?
It is. Let me try to unpack it from the top. So one, human in the loop. I'm so sorry you're getting so many orders. What a problem to have.
No, it's good. It's good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's always a build or buy analysis with AI. And sometimes in thinking about the automation, the AI, especially as you're growing, there are a number of people that have solved for pain points that everybody deals with. So the first thing I would look for is like, is there anything, like if you can really distill that pain point down, I don't think you're going to be able to like have AI physically put the product into the box and then put the label on it.
Robots.
I mean, that's what 3PLs are for. I mean, I don't know if your margins allow for it, but like, there's ShipBob, there's lots of 3PLs
Sure.
out there that like
Exactly.
handle this so that you don't have to be going. You should not be going to FedEx. That is not the best use of your time.
Yeah, no, but it's it has to be refrigerated and it's delicate, and I just wouldn't trust a 3PL at this state. But anyway,
Well,
maybe.
I would look at that, but I would say like, what is that milestone that you have? What is that threshold that you have to reach in order to switch it over to a 3PL? Because there's refrigerated, there's like we can get into that. But if you can narrow down your pain point other than putting it into a box, there usually is environments that take those pain points off of your shoulders where it's a subscription base. And a lot of those companies are, it's really a mini SaaS product where they're taking that workflow and they're productizing that. But for some companies, especially in high growth mode, like buy the subscription, add it into your tech stack, because you can also like evaluate that in 6 months, 3 months, whatever that threshold is to get you to the next level in, articulating what that workflow should really be.
There are 3PLs that do specialize in refrigeration as well.
Sure.
Just FYI.
Yeah, we were working on the website, and then we decided to launch an app instead, because who needs a website if you can just use it on your phone as an app? And then it's kind of a website, but it basically, we're just not there yet. We used Claude Code and got ahead of ourselves. We're like, holy crap, this is really growing really fast. So Claude Code's only been around about a month. So it's like, it was an unexpected trajectory, very fast. And I would recommend everybody give it a try. And like Sarah was saying, just dive in the pool and like see what happens. And I think the rate of acceleration is crazy. I mean, I was building automations on N8N and, very happy with the end result for marketing tools and things like that. And then now now anti-gravity exists, and I have to catch up on how to use that. That's a whole different thing that kind of takes N8N out of the picture for me, because I'm like, well, this will fix all those little bugs I was having. So anyway, the 3PL we will do. We're just not there yet. It's just a matter of, managing our inventory and trusting a company to do it and their willingness to do it at the right price. But yeah, the search engine optimization is still a mystery to me. I have no idea how to get, if someone says like, what's the best company for this product? How do you get your name to pop on there? Is it just a matter of inundating the internet so that the chatbot reaches it, or is it something different?
It's a whole discipline. I work with somebody who specializes in that, and it's a whole discipline. But that is really where you want to be at. Like, I would no longer really, if you're just starting, optimize for Google searches. You should optimize for AI searches.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If you can guide me on that, I would love it.
I can patch you to the right person.
Thank you.
GEO, yes. Lauren, do you want to share anything that you're doing with generative engine optimization? But yes, that is what it is.
Lauren's on mute, but I don't. She may or may not be available.
GEO.
Any other questions? We have about 5, 6 minutes here left. We got probably time for one or two more. any kind of high level thoughts, takeaways, kind of next steps that people are thinking about as they digest this material?
Sarah, this one you might be able to help me out with. Like SEO is very like easy back in the day because there was like a cottage industry that kind of built the scaffolding. So you kind of were 1 click or 2 clicks away from understanding what kind of questions people were asking Google or Bing. But now you've got this, a lot of that energy has moved over to Claude and ChatGPT and Perplexity and all these different platforms. And we know 99% of those users are all very novice and they're still using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity like Google.
Yeah.
But there's nothing published that tells us like what the most common questions are, how things rank, and all those kind of things. Like, how can we as like AI assisted founders or AI first founders get into the mindset of your average everyday shopper that uses AI?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing that. The one that I've seen, which doesn't feel like a natural fit, but I've seen with my own eyes how unbelievably helpful it can be. So Reddit, for instance, just has an enormous amount of user reviews, and they are not shy of saying what they like about a product and what they don't like about a product. And I have seen companies literally doing almost like not product testing, but taking a look at the landscape and saying, what is the next product I want to develop? And they look at the white space in their specific market and what the genuine pain point is of the consumer that doesn't exist out there already. And so because there's just an enormity of data, really scraping all that information and consolidating that into where the pain point generally lives, what are other companies doing to resolve it, if any, and using that as like the first alliance to getting to that sort of answer. There's a ton of different ways to do like research, but that's what I've seen, like a down and dirty roll up your sleeves approach is in sort of the Reddit threads and being able to scrape those.
Gotcha.
Amber, go ahead. I just want to make sure we get her question in before we close out here.
No, thanks. Thanks for having this. This is so interesting and insightful. I've been using Claude for a little while, so very excited to hear some of the points that you mentioned there. More just a logistical question. Are we going to be able to get a recording of this as I think about how to incorporate it into my Claude workflows? I would love to be able to reference some of the insights that were talked about on this call.
Sure, I'm more than happy to share that along with the deck. And I apologize for just like spewing a ton of information at you. It was a lot, but I feel like there's so much happening in the space and it's accelerating so quickly. So what I'd love to give you a takeaway on is one, you can feel free to email me with any specific questions and I can possibly help you and direct you. But two, and congratulations for rolling up your sleeves and jumping in to the AI space. I really do believe that now, like, it is the moment to do it when everybody's been flirting a little bit with AI, but to really get into the implementation side, this sounds incredibly self-serving, and I know that, but I just feel that founders should be working on their business, and there are other people who are outside of your business that can see this with clearer eyes, that have a methodology to going about actually executing within your business. So in addition to sitting at Happy Wellness Group, I'm also an AI success coach for a company called AI Rockstars. Richard Branson is, his companies are clients of the gentleman who runs that company named Kane Minkus. So I get the benefit of seeing enterprise value coming from AI and then how to also implement it for scale ups. So I also nurture 30 different companies. And again, it's really about process and it's really about like a process-driven approach. So you can really realize the ROI at the end of the day and make sure it's implemented the way that it should be.
Yes, and Amber, we will be making a recording available and sharing that as well. And before we depart, I just want to share and announce. We announced last week that we're doing our semi-annual showcase. We're doing one in New York, one in LA, as part of Tech Week in New York City. Our demo day 2 is going to be on June 4th. At the Gerald Lynch Theater at John Jay College. It will be the most concentrated gathering of wellness capital ever assembled in a single room. And we're very excited for this being kind of a category defining moment. We're going to have 10 companies pitching with one winner. And there will be some prizes, and it'll just be a really great event. So registration, if you're an investor or strategic partner, registration is going to be opening next week on April 1st. And if you're a founder who would like to potentially pitch or participate, we're going to have an application process that's also going to be going live next week on April 1st. So stay tuned for that. And we're really excited to have this be one of 2 major gatherings that we're doing this year for our ecosystem. So keep an eye out on that. And Sarah, thank you so much. This has been so lovely and educational. And so we're just very grateful. And again, thank you everyone who was able to attend. And please reach out to us at Happy Wellness. We're here to support your growth and all of your ventures. So with that, we will say goodbye and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Great to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Sarah.
Have a good one.
Thanks.